I live in a fairly popular city, and one night I was working overtime at my job and didn't know I would have to stay a little late that night. I usually walk home because it's about 8:30 when I usually get off. The city I lived in at the time was fairly busy around 8:30, giving me a safer feeling and more confidence to walk home to my apartment by myself. However, tonight I got off at 11:50 p.m. Me being a 5'3", 110-pound woman, I decided I should just catch a cab, which is also quite common around where I lived. No, the city I lived in was not New York or Chicago, for the people trying to guess where I lived. Anyways, a red taxi came by and I waved it down. It pulled up next to me. Inside was a 50-year-old looking man smoking a cigar, which I didn't even think taxi drivers were allowed to do. I give him my address and walk in. Then he takes off. He starts up basic small talk and I go along with it, sending signals that I'd rather be left alone. What I also notice is that he kept taking a whole lot of wrong turns to make the ride longer. I don't know if it was for extra pay or more time to talk, because he was just bombarding me with questions. I tried telling him he's going the wrong way, but he keeps talking and talking. Eventually, we get to my apartment and he tells me he will take 50% off my ride if I gave him my number. I'm just like, what the hell? We literally just talked for like 30 minutes and now you want my number? I'm just like, no. And he gets all mad. Oh, come on, I can give you free rides. I kept saying no to every offer he makes. Then I realized that I did only have $12 and the ride was $15. I eventually just give up and obliged. I gave him my number on a small piece of paper. He smiles his weird grin and then just drives off. After that, I just decide to go to bed. The next morning, I wake up to about 40 texts, all asking if we could meet up for drinks. I just blocked the number, then got dressed for work. I start my all too familiar 14-minute walk to work when that weird taxi guy pulled up next to me. Hey, did you get any of my text? And I tell him, yes, I did. I don't want to hang out or have anything to do with you, and if he could just please leave me alone. He started to cuss me out and then just drove off, and I flipped in the bird as he drove off. During work, my phone blows up all the texts of this guy trying to apologize to me, saying he'll do better next time. I'm creeped out and just block his number. 2 months later of texts from different numbers at all hours of the day and night, I finally get a new number and send in a complaint to the taxi company he works for. I begin to see him around less. I forgot to say he always stands by my apartment or my work or around places where I have to walk past on my walk home. Then, after another month, I leave the country to study abroad. Thankfully, I never heard from him again. So yeah, that's my story, and let's never meet again, weird taxi driver. Why were you so obsessed with me when we only talked for like 30 minutes? This happened about a year ago. There were so many terrible factors working against me that night. I'm astounded I got away unharmed, at least physically. This all begins when I'm at my friend's apartment, who lives in a really rough part of town. In a series of poor decisions that night, I decided that after a solid night of partying, around 4 a.m., I should get an Uber back home to my apartment. My friend's apartment had 2 separate entrances and exits to the building. One on the back, unlit parking lot of the building, and one facing the street. They had 2 sets of keys for each door, and I only had keys to the one in the back of the apartment. Since my Uber would obviously arrive at the street, and the door in the front of the building locks itself behind you, I exited this way when the Uber was soon to arrive. Looking back, standing outside that apartment, I realized I looked like the easiest target on the planet. I'm a small, petite female in my early 20s, and I can hardly stand upright. I'm using a street lamp to prop myself up, and not doing a good job at that either. Then, the light is basically a sign for nearby predators saying, "Come get me." I'm not paying attention to my surroundings at all in this state, despite the fact that there was literally a bullet hole in the front door I just came out of. That's not a good sign. I remember checking to see which car I was getting picked up in, and was only able to pick out the fact that it was a black sedan. Soon after stepping outside, a black sedan pulls up to the curb and starts rolling down the window. So I step forward. Before this man even spoke, I could feel something was wrong. He had like an expression like he was tearing me apart with just his eyes. After seeing that look, it gave me a new meaning to the word predator to describe a criminal, because then I knew what it felt like to be a prey. He basically barks at me, "I'm your Uber driver." This was a second red flag that somehow made its way through my brain. Normally, Uber drivers just pull down the window and say, "Your name," or username. I think I just stared at him for a second, my brain slowly piecing together the situation I was potentially in, and I asked him, "What's my name?" He immediately is enraged and starts screaming about how he doesn't have time for this and just get in the goddamn car, etc, etc, etc. Then I just completely realized how bad of a situation I'm in. I'm totally panicking. Obviously, this wasn't my Uber. Quickly checking the license plate, I immediately see it's not a match from the one on Uber. Meanwhile, this guy is still screaming at me, and I have absolutely no idea what to do. If I bolt in either direction, this guy could easily outrun me, or he could have a weapon. I'm also pretty sure at this point that if he's trying to nab a random person off the street, he must have a weapon of some sort. I can't run back into the apartment right behind me since the door automatically locks behind you, and I don't have the keys, nor the time to unlock it. Running towards the back door would do nothing, as well as his car's right by the driveway to get in to the back parking lot. And again, I would have to take the time to find the right keys to get in. If I screamed, I'm not exactly in the type of neighborhood where someone would try to be a hero, and I can still hear the music radiating from my friend's third floor apartment. I knew they wouldn't hear me. Also, it's 4 a.m. and absolutely no one is around. People talk a lot on the sub how they either sprint into action or freeze, but I felt incapable of doing either. It was the absolute worst feeling I've ever felt in my life. Everything in me wanted to run, but I felt that if I did, it would be the end of me. But if I kept standing there, staring in shock at this screaming man, the result would be the same. From when he started screaming at me to this point, I'm guessing only 20 seconds have passed. Just as he's looking like he's getting ready to get out of the car, another black sedan pulls up right behind him. Checking out the license plate as quickly as I can, I realize it's my actual Uber and make a full sprint to the car. Really only like 6 steps, but anyways. I throw myself inside, screaming at the real Uber driver, "What's my name?" The poor dude looks terrified but responds to my name pretty quickly, to which I reply, "Get me the hell out of here. That man is trying to kidnap me." If I was in this Uber driver's position, I would be shocked too, and probably would have not reacted as quickly as he did. But my dude flew out of there and offered to call the cops for me, which I declined and now regret, and then walked me to my front door of my apartment, ensuring that I got inside safely. Truly incredible human being. You can rest easy knowing he got the fattest tip my college student bank account would allow for, although he deserved much, much more. So to the man who ruined my sense of security and caused my countless anxiety attacks when out in public for months, let's never meet again. P.S. Although it took a while, I'm doing great now. Stay safe, you guys, and always check the license plates on Uber, and always make sure that you're getting in the real person's car who said they'd want to pick you up, and be sure to ask them, "What's my name?" before even stepping a step closer to their vehicle. Thanks for reading my story, and sorry for it being so long. So, short story, but I used to be an Uber driver. I worked late shifts, but sometimes during the day if I needed the money. This particular time, I was working the night. After about 2 hours of taking the usual college kids and drunks home, it was around 3 in the morning when I got a request from a very sketchy side of town. Some guy named John wanted me to pick him up by an alley next to a corner store. In my tired state of mind, I decided this will be my last ride of the night and go and get him, even though it seems really sketchy. I pick him up and he tells me he wants a ride somewhere way out in the county, and this man looks homeless, and a ride to where he wanted to go would be at least $50. So I'm a bit skeptical, but decide not to judge. We are about halfway there, kinda in the middle of nowhere, when he tells me pull over here. I do that, and as he gets off, I see my rear view mirror, him reaching into his pocket, and I decided to floor it because I thought it was a gun. Guess what? I was right. Bang, bang. There goes my back windshield. Luckily, I managed to floor it out of there, and that was my worst experience as an Uber driver. It wasn't anything that horrifying since it all went down in like 50 minutes, but I did get my car fixed, and this wasn't my only crazy I had to pick up, just one of my weirdest stories. And after that one, I decided I should probably just find a normal job. I'm now a janitor at some office spaces, but I will never forget that night. Also, I followed a report with the police on the man, and a homeless man with the exact same description was found and arrested. He was some random junkie. He was charged with a whole lot of other crimes too. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison and 5-year probation. I've never heard what has come out of the man, but I don't really care. Anyways, weird homeless criminal that tried to kill me and possibly steal my car. Let's never meet again. I'm a 23-year-old, 128-pound female, and this happened about 2 years ago. So, one day I was late for a date I was supposed to be at. It was going to be at a coffee shop at 8, and it was 8:30, so I rushed outside to my car and hopped in. I kept on starting it, but the damn thing wouldn't start. I had to think quickly, so I quickly opened up my phone and got me an Uber. Since it was November, it was already pretty dark out, and about 12 minutes later the Uber comes up to the street I'm on. I check the license, and it's the same as the app, and so is the car model and the color. So I get in the back seat, the one in the middle, and as I'm getting in, I realize the guy's blasting classic rock music out of the speakers really loud, and it stinks really bad in the car. The music was annoying as hell, and it was kind of weird because the guy just started driving right when I got in, and I didn't tell him where I wanted to go on the app or in real life. I say to him, hey, you mind turning the music down a bit? Then the guy randomly starts to compliment me, saying stuff like, you're a pretty young girl, and that catches me off guard. I ask him, where are you taking me? And the guy keeps complimenting me more and more, completely ignoring anything I ask or say. I yell, I'm calling the cops if you don't get me out of this car. Again, he ignores me. This time, he turns the music even louder. I dial 911 and call, but then I realize I have no bars. Then I look out the front seat window of the car and see we were in the middle of nowhere. I now know the music and the random compliments were probably to take my attention away and not pay attention to the road, so I wouldn't know where he was going. Anyways, back to the story. So I start to scream frantically and bang on the window. The guy has a completely expressionless face and opens his mouth super wide and starts screaming at the top of his lungs. Not any words, just screaming. I then remember I got mace. If you don't know what mace is, it's basically just pepper spray in my purse, and not paying attention again, I spray it all over the car, getting it in both our eyes. The guy starts screaming even louder on top of the loudest music, and the car goes off-road into the dirt. Mind you, we are still in the middle of nowhere. While he's doing this, I start to slap his face over and over again. He then pushes me back and I hit my door. So I get up and I spray him even more with the mace, and it gets in both our eyes and throats. He is swerving everywhere. It runs over about 6 bushes in like 1 minute, getting his car all scraped up and dirty. I'm screaming out of fear and that I got mace in my eyes and the pain. I grab a water bottle that was in my purse and splash it all over me and drink some of the rest. Once done, I throw the empty bottle at the driver's face. He starts to actually yell out words now. He just starts cussing me out. He then slams on the brakes, stopping the car, and yells, get out. And I scream, the door's locked. He then starts yelling more curse words at me and turns the car back on. This jump scares me, and I see that all the windows are cracked up from this guy's crazy driving. I start breaking them, and once the one next to me broke, I start kicking at the door with all my force, and it opens. I hop out and start running, and since it's dark out, I see headlights coming out from behind me. The guy was trying to hit me. I quickly jump out the way, getting my face all dirty since I jumped into a big pile of dirt, and the car passes passes me and speeds off. Then that starts my 2-hour walk back to civilization because I went the other direction back to my city. It took me 2 hours to get to some small town, and then once I was there, I ran into a 24-hour McDonald's and called my would-be date and explained everything. The guy thought I was just making it up because I stood him up, and he cussed me out and hung up. I then called my best friend and tell her to come and get me. She doesn't believe my story at first, but then eventually comes and gets me. I look back on it and laugh nowadays, but it was really disturbing when it happened. The guy must have had mental problems or something, and I rather stupidly didn't make a complaint and instead just deleted the app. I now take the subway. So yeah, that's my crazy story that most people don't believe. And weird Uber driver, let's never meet again.